Welcome to the deep dive. We got a request to really dig into Julius Caesar, and that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, our main source is that massive Wikipedia entry on him. It's incredibly detailed.
Seriously comprehensive. Covers, well, everything. His family, his career, what he wrote, his legacy, the works.
Right. And it's not just a biography, is it? It's more like a window into this pivotal figure, military guy, political force, even a writer shaping his own story.
So our mission, if you will, is to sift through all that information. We want to pull out the really crucial bits, the fascinating insights about why he matters so much.
Exactly. We want the big picture, the impactful moments, without getting totally lost in every single minor detail.
Okay, let's get into it. His family, the Julia clan, they had some serious lineage claims, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. They claim descent from Aeneas, the Trojan hero, and get this, even the goddess Venus.
Venus, wow. Talk about setting the bar high.
But interestingly, the source notes that while they had this amazing pedigree, they weren't necessarily rolling in dough compared to some other top Roman families at the time.
Yeah. So noble, but maybe not super rich. Could that have fueled some ambition?
Quite possibly. Maybe a drive to restore the family's, financial clout along with its name.
And the name itself, Caesar, where did that actually come from? The Wikipedia entry lists a few theories.
It's a bit murky. One idea is about being born by cesarean section, but, well, that usually wasn't survivable for the mother back then, and his mother lived long after his birth.
Right, so that one seems unlikely. What else?
The Historia Augusta, which is, let's say, a colorful source, suggests maybe thick hair Caesares or striking gray eyes, oculus Caesius,
Okay.
or, my favorite, maybe an ancestor who supposedly killed an elephant in battle, Caesai in some dialect.
An elephant slayer. Now that's a story you'd want people to tell.
Definitely sticks in the mind.
So even if they weren't the richest, they had connections, right? His father was governor of Asia, and his aunt Julia married Gaius Marius.
Absolutely. Marius was huge, a leader of the populares, the faction pushing for the people against the traditional aristocracy, the Optimates. That connection was really formative for Caesar,
And his mother, Aurelia Cotta.
also from a very distinguished family. So he had noble blood on both sides, and those connections were crucial, especially with the political chaos brewing.
We also get this picture of him growing up in the Suburra district, not exactly the fanciest part of Rome.
No, quite modest, relatively speaking.
Oh.
And tutored by Marcus Antonius Nefo. Kind of grounds him a bit, doesn't it? This future giant learning his lessons there.
It gives context for his later popular appeal, maybe.
Could be. And his youth was set against this backdrop of intense conflict, the social war, the power struggle between his uncle Marius and Sulla.
Populares versus Optimates, Marius versus Sulla. Sounds brutal.
It was. Exile, political enemies, Marius even declared an enemy of the state. Caesar saw all this firsthand. It must have taught him a lot about power and how quickly it can shift.
Then boom. His father dies suddenly. Caesar only 16, head of the family.
Right. And soon after, he's appointed Flamen the high priest of Jupiter.
Sounds impressive, but the source says it came with a lot of rules.
A ton of restrictions.
Yeah.
Couldn't ride a horse, couldn't touch a horse, couldn't sleep away from his own bed for more than a couple of nights, and crucially, couldn't command troops.
So prestigious, but a potential dead end for someone ambitious.
Definitely limiting. Around the same time, he also breaks off one engagement and marries Cornelia, who was the daughter of Cinna.
Cinna, another big popularis figure, allied with Marius.
Exactly. It was a very clear political move, aligning himself squarely with his uncle's faction.
Just as Sulla makes his comeback. Bad timing.
Terrible timing. Sulla returns, becomes dictator, starts these bloody purges, and Caesar, Marius' nephew, Cinna's son-in-law, he's suddenly in deep trouble.
Target on his back.
Big time. Sulla stripped him of his inheritance, his wife's dowry, that priesthood, everything. He had to flee for his life.
How did he survive that?
It was intervention from his mother's family, the Cottas, who actually had ties to Sulla and the Vestal Virgins. They pleaded for him.
And Sulla agreed. Reluctantly.
Very reluctantly.
Yeah.
The source quotes Sulla saying he saw many Mariuses in Caesar. A kind of chilling foresight, wasn't it? He sensed the potential danger.
Wow. Close call. So, losing the priesthood. Ironically, that opened doors.
Exactly. No more restrictions preventing a military career. So he joins the army, serves under Marcus Minucius Thermus in Asia Minor.
And this is where those rumors started about King Nicomedes of Bithynia.
Yes, the source mentions the persistent stories about an intimate relationship. Caesar always denied them furiously, but his enemies kept bringing them up throughout his life.
Politics hasn't changed much, has it? But he did achieve things in the military there.
Oh, definitely. He won the Civic Crown.
For saving a soldier's life in the siege of Mytilene, that was a big deal, right?
Huge deal. Second highest military honor. Gave him enormous prestige. People literally had to stand up and applaud when he entered public assemblies.
That's power. He also served briefly in Cilicia.
Yep, under Servilius Esoricus.
Yeah.
Short stint there.
Meanwhile, Sulla does something unexpected. He just quits.
Right. Resigns the dictatorship, restores Senate power, retires, and dies a few years later. Very unusual.
And Caesar had a comment on that later.
Yeah, he famously quipped that Sulla did not know his ABCs of politics. Basically saying Sulla didn't understand you don't just give up that kind of power once you have it.
Tells you a lot about Caesar's own thinking.
Absolutely. After Sulla died, Caesar came back to Rome, smartly stayed out of Lepidus's failed revolt, picked his battles.
And focused on his speaking skills. He got praise from Cicero.
High praise. Cicero apparently asked, who has more talent in speaking than Caesar? Coming from Cicero, that's massive. Public speaking was a key political weapon in Rome.
So he goes off to study more in Rhodes with Apollonius Molon.
The same guy who taught Cicero. But on the way, pirates.
Ah, yes, the pirate story. This is great. They kidnap him, demand 20 talents ransom.
And Caesar supposedly laughs and says he's worth at least 50. Just sheer audacity.
Even as a captive.
And apparently, he treated them like he was in charge. Joked around, wrote poetry, but also told them quite plainly he'd crucify them all once he was free.
Which they probably thought was just talk.
They definitely underestimated him. As soon as the ransom was paid, he raised a fleet, hunted them down.
And crucified them, just like he said.
Yep. When the local governor dragged his feet, Caesar just did it himself. Sends a message, doesn't it? Ruthless determination.
No kidding. So back in Rome, he gets elected tribunus militum, his official start in politics. Then quaestor in 69 BCE. A busy time.
And a sad time, too, personally. His Aunt Julia died. He gave a very political funeral speech for her, and his wife Cornelia also passed away.
All while his career is taking off. During his quaestorship in Hispania, there's that dream, the one about his mother.
Right. Sleeping with his mother. Interpreted as him being destined to conquer the world, Mother Earth, you see. A direct link to Alexander the Great's kind of destiny.
And sometimes that dream is placed later, right before the Rubicon.
Exactly. It's a powerful symbol whenever it occurred. Shows this sense of fate, this immense ambition swirling around him, or at least that's the story told later.
Then he goes for Pontifex Maximus in 63 BCE, high priest, big election.
Huge. He was up against powerful, established figures, but he won. And this wasn't just ceremonial.
It held real political power.
Absolutely. Controlled the state religion, the calendar, rituals, huge influence. Winning that was a major political victory for Caesar.
Around the same time, there's that story about him seeing Alexander the Great's statue in Cadiz.
Yeah, reportedly weeping because Alexander had conquered so much by that age, and Caesar felt he'd done comparatively little.
Wow, that really shows who he was measuring himself against. The scale of his ambition.
It's a key anecdote historians use. After being praetor in 62 BCE, he gets the governorship of Hispania Ulterior, further Spain.
But he was in debt, heavily in debt.
Massively. This governorship was a chance to make some serious money and gain more military glory.
And that's where Crassus comes in, the money man.
Exactly. Crassus bankrolled him, probably in exchange for political support against Pompey later on. These alliances were everything.
So in Spain, he's successful militarily, gets hailed as imperator by his troops.
Which he needed if he wanted a triumph, a formal victory parade. He also made some money, paid off some debts, enacted some reforms.
Then he faces a choice. The triumph or running for consul.
Right. He couldn't do both simultaneously. A triumph required him to stay outside Rome's formal boundary as a general. To run for consul, he had to be a civilian inside the city.
He chose consul. Tells you where his priorities lay.
Clearly political. He wanted to run in absentia from outside the city, but Cato the Younger blocked that. Very strict on procedure, Cato was.
So the election for 59 BCE, it sounds like it was pretty dirty.
Very contentious, lots of money flying around. Even Cato's supposedly resorted to bribery to try and stop Caesar.
And Caesar wins, alongside Marcus Calpurnius Bibulus.
Yes, Bibulus. An optimate, Cato's son-in-law. Destined to be a thorn in Caesar's side.
Which leads directly to the first triumvirate. This unofficial power pact between Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus.
A pragmatic deal.
Yeah.
Pompey needed land for his veterans, which the Senate was blocking. Crassus wanted certain financial regulations changed. Caesar needed their backing for his own agenda and future commands.
So they needed each other.
Desperately.
Yeah.
Caesar was the glue, smoothing over past issues between Pompey and Crassus, and they cemented it with marriages. Pompey married Caesar's daughter Julia. Caesar married Calpurnia.
Very Roman. So with this alliance, they start pushing their agendas. Caesar's land bill first.
Yes, for veterans and the urban poor. But Bibulus, his co-consul, tried to stop him, declared bad omens every day.
Did that work?
Not against the triumvirate's muscle. They basically ignored him. Pompey brought armed supporters to the forum. Bibulus was physically intimidated, maybe even assaulted.
Seriously?
Yeah, reportedly had manure dumped on him. He retreated to his house and essentially stayed there for the rest of the year, effectively leaving Caesar in sole charge.
Leading to that joke, the year of Julius and Caesar.
Exactly. A sign of how traditional Republican politics were breaking down.
Okay, so after that very forceful consulship, his enemies try to sideline him, give him boring provinces.
They tried. But the triumvirate's influence won out. He secured Cisalpine Gaul, Illyria, and crucially, Transalpine Gaul, and not just for 1 year, but for 5 years, with Imperium, full command authority.
A huge power base.
What?
And probably protection from lawsuits once he left office.
Very likely a factor. He left Rome quickly for his provinces.
Which brings us to the Gallic Wars. The official reason was defending allies.
That was the justification. Roman allies were being attacked by Gallic and Germanic tribes. But
there were other motives.
oh, certainly. Massive opportunity for wealth, plunder, and critically, the chance to build a large, battle-hardened, and personally loyal army. He started with 4 legions, quickly raised more.
And this turned into years of campaigning, right? Pushing deep into Gaul, even crossing the Rhine, landing in Britain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Defeating tribes one by one. His success must have terrified his rivals back in Rome. The conservative faction saw his power growing exponentially.
That fear led to the Lucca Conference in 56 BCE, patching up the triumvirate.
Temporarily, yes. Pompey and Crassus got a second consulship, and in return, they extended Caesar's command in Gaul for another 5 years, kicking the can down the road, essentially.
Meanwhile, Caesar's conquering Gaul, but facing major resistance eventually. Vercingetorix.
Yes, Vercingetorix managed to unite many Gallic tribes in a major revolt in 52 BCE. It was a serious challenge.
But Caesar defeated him at Alesia.
The siege of Alesia was a masterpiece of Roman engineering and Caesar's strategic thinking. He besieged Vercingetorix and simultaneously built outer fortifications to defend against Gallic relief forces, a double siege.
Incredible. And that victory basically sealed the deal for Roman control of Gaul.
Pretty much. There was some mopping up, but Alesia was decisive. Vercingetorix surrendered. Gaul was effectively Roman.
And the human cost. The Wikipedia entry gives some staggering numbers.
Shocking numbers. Millions killed or enslaved. Even if exaggerated, the scale was immense. Gaul was fundamentally changed, became Romanized, and stayed loyal for centuries.
Caesar wrote about all this himself, didn't he, in the Commentaries?
Commentary de Bello Gallico. His own account, naturally highlighting his successes. Brilliant propaganda, but also invaluable history. We hear about key figures serving with him: Mark Antony, Labienus, Quintus Cicero.
These victories just turbocharged his prestige and power back in Rome.
Massively. He was arguably more popular and powerful than Pompey by this point. The stage was set for conflict.
Which wasn't long in coming. The triumvirate was falling apart anyway.
Yeah. Caesar's daughter Julia, Pompey's wife, died in childbirth. That personal link was gone. Then Crassus was killed fighting the Parthians. The alliance dissolved.
And Pompey started siding more with Caesar's enemies, the Optimates.
Increasingly so. He married the daughter of one of Caesar's key opponents. The lines were being drawn.
So 50 BCE, the Senate, pushed by Pompey, orders Caesar to disband his army and come home. No second consulship allowed either.
A direct challenge. They wanted him back in Rome as a private citizen, vulnerable to prosecution by his enemies.
And Caesar knew that. He wasn't going to walk into that trap.
No way. Pompey accused him of insubordination. Caesar felt he had no choice but to protect himself and his position.
So, January 10th, 49 BCE, he crosses the Rubicon River with the 13th Legion.
Alea iacta est. The die is cast. A small river, but a huge symbolic boundary. Crossing it with his army was an act of war against the state.
And his enemies were caught off guard, especially in winter.
Completely surprised by his speed. Key figures like Cato and Scipio fled south, not even realizing initially how few troops Caesar had with him at first.
Caesar chases Pompey down to Brundisium, still hoping to negotiate.
He claims so, but Pompey evacuated his forces to Greece.
So instead of following immediately, Caesar goes to Hispania.
Smart move. secure his flank, defeat Pompey's forces there first. His famous line, gonna fight an army without a leader. Then he'd come back for a leader without an army.
Quick campaign in Spain.
Very quick. 27 days, defeated Pompey's legions there. Then he turned east.
Towards the showdown in Greece, Pharsalus, 48 BCE.
The decisive battle. Caesar was outnumbered, especially in cavalry.
But he won. Decisively.
Brilliant tactics. He anticipated Pompey's cavalry attack, used a hidden reserve line of infantry to counter it, routed them. Huge losses for Pompey's side, many senators killed.
After that, Caesar's appointed dictator briefly back in Rome.
Yes, with Mark Antony as his master of the horse. But he resigned it quickly. After just 7 days, then got elected consul again. Still trying to maintain some appearance of legality, perhaps.
Then he pursues Pompey to Egypt.
Only to find Pompey's already dead, assassinated by orders of the young pharaoh, Ptolemy III.
And Caesar's reaction?
Reportedly upset, maybe disgusted by the treachery, maybe seeing it as an affront to Roman dignity, even if Pompey was his enemy.
Then he gets involved in the Egyptian civil war, siding with Cleopatra.
Yes, against her brother Ptolemy III. Possibly influenced by Ptolemy's role in Pompey's death, and certainly seeing the strategic advantage of an alliance with Cleopatra.
He wins, puts Cleopatra on the throne, and they have a son, Caesarion.
Widely believed by historians to be Caesar's son, yes. Though Caesar never officially acknowledged him under Roman law. Couldn't marry Cleopatra either. Roman law forbade marriage to foreigners, especially royalty.
But the relationship continued. She even visited Rome.
She did. Caused quite a stir. He maintained the relationship even during his last marriage, which was childless.
After Egypt, more campaigns, the Middle East, Zella.
Ah, yes. The incredibly swift victory over Pharnaces II of Pontus. That's where he sent the famous message, Veni Vidi Vici.
I came, I saw, I conquered. Perfect Caesar soundbite.
Absolutely. Then on to North Africa, dealing with the remaining Pompeian resistance.
Thapsus, more victories, deaths of Scipio and Cato.
Cato's suicide, especially, became a powerful symbol for the dying republic. But Pompey's sons, Cneius and Sextus, escaped.
To Hispania, one last fight.
The Battle of Munda, March 45 BCE. His toughest battle, reportedly. But he won. That finally ended the Civil War. He was undisputed master.
And elected consul again, multiple times, even once without a colleague.
Total dominance. When he returned to Italy in September 45 BCE, he wrote his will, named his grandnephew Octavian as his main heir, Marcus Brutus as a secondary heir.
Interesting choice, Brutus. Meanwhile, the Senate is just showering him with honors.
Unprecedented honors. Triumphal clothes permanently, a huge house built for him, dictator for life, his statue carried with the gods, coins with his face on them.
Coins with his face. That was a huge break from tradition, wasn't it?
Massive. Kings did that, not Republican magistrates.
Yeah.
Statues comparing him to Romulus, the founder of Rome, the message was becoming pretty clear.
King in all but name.
It certainly looked that way. Renaming the month Quintilis to Julius July, making his birthday a holiday, a temple to his family.
But underneath all the celebration, resentment was building.
Definitely. Especially when he started bypassing traditional procedures, like appointing consuls without proper elections. He resigned his sole consulship but just appointed replacements himself. That angered many senators.
Yet they still gave him more titles. Liberator. A temple to liberty. Ironic.
Deeply ironic. He was made consul for life, given the right to hold any office, essentially absolute power. He could appoint local officials, bypassing elections.
It sounds like the Republic was basically over.
Functionally, yes, even if the structures remained nominally.
What about his reforms during this time? Social stuff?
He did enact quite a few. Tried to limit wealthy citizens leaving Italy for too long, cracked down on upper-class exploitation of the poor, canceled some debt, regulated grain distribution.
And land for his veterans. New colonies.
Plans for that, yes. Trying to stabilize things after the wars.
But the big one, the lasting one, was the calendar reform.
The Julian calendar.
Yeah.
Huge achievement. 365 days, leap year every 4. The basis for our calendar today. Had one super long year, maybe 445 days, just to get it aligned.
Imagine living through that year. He also planned big building projects.
Transforming Rome. New speakers platform, rostra, courts, markets, a public library, a new Senate house, the Curia Julia, his own forum with a temple to Venus, expanding the city's sacred boundary, the Pomerium.
Impressive plans, but all this power, the spending, the titles, it rubbed people the wrong way, even friends like Brutus.
Absolutely. The title, Empress Maximus Dulce Sum Romana, greatest commander of Rome, then Pater Patriae, father of the country, and finally, Dictator perpetuus, dictator for life, early in 44 BCE.
Dictator for life. That was probably the nail in the coffin for the conspirators.
It really signaled the end of any hope for restoring the old republic. People started calling him Rex King. He refused the title publicly.
Declaring, I am the Republic.
Right, but his actions seemed to contradict his words.
And that incident at the Temple of Venus, when he didn't stand up for the senators.
Big mistake. Huge offense. Whether he was sick, epilepsy is sometimes mentioned, or just arrogant, it looked terrible. A major breach of respect.
That really fanned the flames of the conspiracy.
It seems so. Brutus, Cassius Longinus, and others, the liberators, started plotting seriously. They took an oath.
So the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BCE, they lure him to a Senate meeting.
At the theater of Pompeii. Used a fake petition about restoring power to the Senate as bait. Mark Antony apparently suspected something.
Tried to warn him.
Yeah, but he was intercepted, kept outside by the conspirators. Too late. Caesar walked into the trap.
Led into a side room and then attacked.
Servilius Casca struck first. Caesar fought back initially. "Villain Casca, what are you doing?" Then Casca yelled for help in Greek. "Brothers, help me!" And they all swarmed him, including Brutus.
The accounts of his last words vary wildly.
Famously so. Shakespeare gave us a tu, Brute. Suetonius suggests Greek, "You too, my child." Maybe Latin, "You too, Brutus, my son." But Plutarch says he said nothing, just pulled his toga over his head when he saw Brutus among them. A final act of resignation or dignity.
He was stabbed 23 times by over 60 people.
That's the number from Eutropius. A brutal collective act. He collapsed at the foot of a statue of it, Erica, ironically.
And the conspirators, they thought they'd save the Republic.
They ran out shouting, "People of Rome, we are free once more."
Yeah.
But it didn't quite work out that way.
No, it triggered more civil wars instead.
Exactly. His death marked the final end of the Republic, the very thing they claimed to be protecting.
The people loved Caesar, didn't they? They were outraged.
Immensely popular with the common people and soldiers, Mark Antony whipped up that anger, calling for revenge.
And Caesar's will dropped a bombshell, naming Octavian as his heir.
This unknown 19-year-old grandnephew suddenly inherited Caesar's vast wealth and, crucially, his name. Became Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus.
Octavian, young but smart.
Very astute. He teamed up with Antony and Lepidus to form the Second Triumvirate, officially sanctioned this time.
To hunt down Brutus and Cassius.
Yep. They used prescriptions, basically outlawing enemies and seizing property to fund their armies. Brutal stuff. And Caesar himself was deified, became Divus Iulius.
The divine Julius.
Which made Octavian Divi Filius, son of a god, hugely powerful for his image.
The triumvirate defeated Brutus and Cassius at Philippi.
Both Brutus and Cassius died there, but the triumvirate didn't last either.
Eventually, it came down to Octavian versus Antony and Cleopatra.
Right. Another civil war. Octavian won decisively at Actium.
And became the first Roman emperor, Caesar Augustus.
The adopted son finished what the father arguably started. The transition was complete.
Beyond politics and war, Caesar was a writer, his commentaries.
On the Gallic War and on the Civil War. Essential reading, but yeah, it's the source notes. Definitely written to present himself in the best light. Often admitted his own mistakes.
Smart PR. Are there other works attributed to him?
Descriptions of the later campaigns in Alexandria, Africa, and Spain exist, but the authorship is debated, maybe written by officers under his command.
Okay, let's talk legacy. He's ranked among the great captains of history.
Absolutely. Alexander, Hannibal, Napoleon, Caesar's right up there. Strategic genius, look at Alesia. Tactical brilliance, Pharsalus. Incredible speed, Zella.
Admired by later military leaders.
Frederick the Great, Napoleon, many others studied his campaigns. Alexander Hamilton called him the most remarkable man in antiquity. Clausewitz saw him as embodying ambition, driving military genius.
And he wasn't formally trained as a general from youth.
Largely self-taught, it seems.
Yeah.
Great at inspiring loyalty, adapting to terrain, using Roman engineering like cutting off water supplies in Gaul. Frederick the Great told his generals to study Caesar's river crossings.
Let's quickly cover family. 3 wives. Cornelia, Pompeia, Calpurnia.
Right. One acknowledged daughter, Julia, with Cornelia.
Then the possible children. Caesarion with Cleopatra, maybe Brutus with Servilia.
Caesarion is widely accepted by historians, though not legally Roman. The Brutus connection is more speculative, fueled by Caesar's long affair with Brutus's mother, Servilia.
And his adopted son, Octavian, who became Augustus.
Is ultimate heir.
What about other relationships, affairs?
Cleopatra, obviously. Servilia? You know, he queen of Mauritania. He had a reputation.
And the rumors about same-sex relationships? Nicomedes.
Those persisted, used by enemies. Roman attitudes were complex, different from ours, but it was still used as political ammunition. Soldiers even sang mocking songs about it,
Caesar denied it.
vigorously, under oath. But the reputation as a womanizer was probably more prominent overall.
Finally, the titles. Davus, Pater Patriae, Pontifex Maximus, Corona Civica.
All significant, but the craziest legacy. His name, Caesar.
Becoming the title for emperor, Kaiser, Tsar.
Exactly. Used for centuries, right up until after World War I,
Hmm.
a family name transformed into the ultimate symbol of imperial power. Incredible.
So, wrapping this deep dive up, Julius Caesar, what a figure. Pivotal in Rome's shift from republic to empire, military mastermind, political force, reformer.
And his assassination, dramatic, brutal, and ultimately counterproductive for the assassins. It just accelerated the changes already underway.
What stands out most to you from this, looking back?
Maybe just the sheer scale of it all. The ambition, the conquest, the reforms, the way his legacy, even his name echoed through history, and that constant tension. Was he saving Rome from itself or destroying its soul for his own power?
That's the question, isn't it? Was he a necessary catalyst for change, recognizing the republic was broken, or a tyrant who broke it? It's something you could debate forever.
Definitely something to ponder.
Mhm.
How different would history be if he just died of illness instead of on the Senate floor?
A fascinating thought. If this deep dive into Caesar's life got you thinking, definitely check out that Wikipedia source or other histories. There's always more to uncover about him.